Good morning, friends and family from beautiful Paducah, Kentucky, and more importantly, the entrance to the Tennessee River. Um, Also, apologies for the disheveled look. I'm reminded of the Chris Christopherson line. I fumbled in my closet and picked out my cleanest dirty shirt. So, to catch up for the last 3 days, 3 days ago, we made an 80-mile day down the Mississippi River. Very uneventful, not a lot going on. We left Alton and made it through St. Louis. That's the first time I'd ever seen the arch. A lot of commercial traffic in St. Louis. But once we got past St. Louis, it dropped off almost altogether, which was really surprising. We tied up to a wall at a dam further down off a smaller tributary river, and we had power, so we were at least able to run the AC. But that was it. We couldn't even really get off the boat. There was a little concrete walkway that you could get off and walk a little bit, but they really didn't want people walking on it, but we did anyway. So the next day we had a huge day. We did roughly 110 miles. Now we did have a current of about eight, or we had a current pushing us to a speed of about 8.5 knots most of the day. So that was it was still a 14-hour day, but I wanted to try to take advantage as much as I could, and ended up at an anchorage just up the Ohio River, which was like a sandy area just off the main channel. It was marked on the charts as a good anchorage, and actually we stuck the anchor the first time, and seemed to be holding pretty well, and things seemed to be going just fine. We settled in for the night. I checked the weather, and all the storms were well east of us, and they were having some pretty big storms, but it was nice and quiet where we were. It was just incredibly hot. And it was so hot, in fact, I couldn't stay in the boat. I actually came up here on the fly bridge and put a blanket down and just tried to sleep up here, but I couldn't. It was just miserably hot. A little bit of wind would come through, but that was it. And then, I traded uh, flies in Michigan for mosquitoes in Kentucky. So I'm not sure that was a good trade or not. Finally, at about 2 a.m., I had just about given up on getting any sleep, but decided to go back down and get in the boat and crawl in bed and just see if I could listen to some podcasts and doze off, which I did. I woke up in sheer terror. The weather radio was blasting. My anchor alarm was blasting. Um, it was storming. I haven't been in a storm like that in years and years, if ever. Uh, the river had turned into about 3 foot waves, and the wind was blowing at least 30 or 40 miles an hour. Getting all of that thrown on you from a dead sleep in complete pitch darkness was a little bit terrifying. I could hear the anchor hitting bottom as we were dragging it down the river. And so I knew I had to do something, but I just wasn't sure really what my move was. So I pulled up my electronic chart and also just pulled up Google Maps on my phone to try to see where I was and figure out in the dark if I was going to be able to maneuver back off the channel and try to reset the anchor in all of this chaos. To add a little bit of salt and pepper to this, I could also see a huge barge coming up the channel that I was dragging towards. I looked up the name of the boat on my chart and contacted him on the radio and said, "Look, I'm dragging an anchor and I don't know where I'm going to end up, and I'm trying to take care of it." Captain was super, super nice. He goes, "Man," he goes, this storm came out of nowhere. I'm going to keep an eye on you. Um, don't worry. Just try to do what you can do." So I pulled the anchor up, which I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my windlass that pulls the anchor up is kind of like a ratchet thing that pulls the anchor up, and that's a huge, heavy anchor. It's been kind of slipping where it doesn't want to pull the anchor up, and sure enough, it was slipping and not wanting to pull the anchor up. So I'm like having to really try to just manually pull the anchor up as the boat's bouncing up and down and spinning around and pouring down rain and wind. It was it was a little bit terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. It was one of those moments where you're still kind of in a deep sleep and trying to perform all this and think it through things, and your brain's just not quite awake yet. So I got the anchor up and then watched my chart, and I was really blowing. So I decided the best course of action was to try to reverse into the shallower area off the channel and pitch the anchor again and see if I could get it to stick. So that's what I did, and I was able to get the anchor stick, and it was just as the barge was coming by. 10 minutes later, the storm was gone, and it really did come out of nowhere, and it was a massive squall line, I guess, is the only thing I can say that happened. Um, by this time, it was about 4:30 in the morning, and after that, there was no way I was going back to sleep. So I made some coffee and looked over my charts and decided to get a really early start the next day, which we did. The Ohio River current is pretty strong right now, so we were only making about 4 knots upstream, and we locked through at Olmsted Dam. And my original goal was to try to make it just on the other side of the Kentucky Dam, but I was so tired, just exhausted, and wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it there in time against the current. So we decided to take what I call a short day, which was 7.5, almost 8 hours, and stop here in Paducah at the city dock. And it turned out to be the right move for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have power here. That's about all they have. It's just a dock off the channel. Um, in fact, it's so close to the channel, the boat got rocked and almost did a backflip because I was tied up on the other side of the dock. And my friend who I met, his name is Smurf, came running out. He is a super character. He's in a homemade boat, homemade houseboat. He came running out and he's like, move over to the other side. I'll help you with your lines. So we instantly became friends and spent last night talking with him, and he's just a great guy. So anyway, we moved the boat over to this side, and I was able to get a good night's sleep. Well, actually, once we got the boat tied off, I took about a 2-hour nap, and I was just trashed, just exhausted. So I definitely know that stopping here was the right call. Walked up and got some food at a little Mexican restaurant, and then last night we kind of just I got a little small resupply order from Walmart and kind of put everything back on the shelves and everything that had been rocked off, just kind of get organized a little bit. So we've covered a lot of ground in the last 3 days. I don't want to go back on the Mississippi though. I was so surprised at how remote it is. There is nothing out there. And in fact, on my 100+ mile day, I think I only passed 2 or 3 barges, no recreational traffic, maybe a couple of fishermen, but I had the Mississippi River to myself. Such a strange thing. I felt like I was, boating through the middle of Africa or something. There was just nothing out there. The currents on the Mississippi are really crazy. Um, Whenever there's a sharp bend in the river, you forget how fast the current is until you get to a sharp bend in the river, and then it does these swirly little, whirlpool sucks that want to throw the boat around. I didn't enjoy that at all. And like I said, it was scenic, I guess, but after 3 or 4 hours of the same kind of scenery, it kind of kind of gets a little old. When we turned up the Ohio, it completely turned into traffic highway. More barges down there than I've seen probably since the Chicago Calumet area. Just a lot of commercial traffic. So with that, and speaking of that, there's a barge coming up here. So today's plan is we've got a couple of miles to go to Kentucky Dam and lock through. And then what I hope is going to be a fairly leisurely lake day, cruising down the old Tennessee River. and or I should say cruising up. That's another thing is I don't know. I've tried to do some research and figure out what the current's going to be like, and everything I read basically says, well, it just depends. Depends on how much water they're releasing. Depends on how much rainfall there's been. All this stuff. So I really won't know until I get on the other side of the dam. But I'm hoping it's going to be a nice day and we could make some miles. Now, I'll be staying in a marina tonight, so that's going to cut my day a little short. I'm hoping to get, 50 miles in. If I could get somewhere down around Paris Landing, that would be a win. It's supposed to be a really nice marina too, and I could use a shower and some laundry. So we'll see if we can make it there. But I'm kind of playing it by ear. Also, Pierce Landing is one of those marinas where you don't make reservations. You just show up and it's first come, first serve. So that actually gives me a little bit of flexibility to see, if I get there early afternoon and I'm making good time, I may go further. Or, I may come in there late in the evening on the ragged edge. So they said they had plenty of spaces, so I'm not too worried about it. So that's what's going on. Molly's doing well. We took a long walk this morning and made some coffee, and we're getting ready to undo the lines and set off. So apologies for it being a long stretch between videos, but we've covered a lot of miles and we're doing our thing. And on the days when I'm not staying in marina, it's basically sun up to sundown, and doesn't give me much time to get much else done. So thanks for checking in. Sorry this one's so long. I've had a lot of coffee this morning, so I'm probably rambling. So apologies for that as well. um, be very glad you can't smell me because it's not very nice right now. But with any luck, we'll have a shower in a few hours and be feeling a lot better. So again, thanks for checking in. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great day. And I will keep you posted.